Day of Egg Bowl week. We're coming to you live from the cottage right outside Visit Oxford, 1013 Jackson Avenue. If you're in the area, stop by, say hello. We'd love to chat with you as we count it down to Thursday night, Thanksgiving night, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Great conversation with Mississippi State offensive lineman, former Mississippi State offensive lineman Ben Beckwith in the 3 o'clock hour. We are joined now by
coming back.
We're going to circle back with Ben. Chinsaki, sorry. We'll talk again with Ben later this hour to kind of wrap up that conversation.
That's the truth, though.
As I had more, we actually will talk with him. Neil Price is going to join us in the 5 o'clock hour, but the voice of the Rebels, David Kellum, joins us right now in person. If it was on the phone, it'd be on the Farm Bureau phone line, but he is in person. What's up, my man?
Well, I can call you from right here if you want me to, but look at these people blowing at you guys.
That guy just tweeted at me. He said he was going to circle the block just so he could yell Hell State at you.
Really good. I'm glad that he did. But thanks for listening.
Hey, Ben's interview was great, by the way. I listened to it on the way in, and it makes you really appreciate players that come from small schools that recruiters aren't real sure, and they get that chance and they explode. I think Patrick Willis at Ole Miss is a great example of that too. So that was really good to get that chance and take advantage of it.
We've spent the entire football season really kind of building up to this week, and there's so many years, David, where the Egg Bowl has been, 3-8 Ole Miss, 4-7 Mississippi State, or a couple of 5-win teams trying to get to a 6th win for bowl eligibility. It's so much more fun when the stakes are high, and the stakes are high this year.
I agree totally. I don't pull for the Bulldogs, but if they happen to have a good record,
You're kidding.
No, but you know what it is? We sit there, we get one's got 3, one's got 4. We think we're playing for all the marbles, and everybody outside's looking at us like, man, they get awfully excited about this game. But it doesn't matter what the record is with us in the state. I mean, it's important to try to get the win and have bragging rights for the next year. But I do like it. I like it a whole lot better when both teams have something on the line, or you look at the Iron Bowl all these years, those two teams are always battling for a little bit higher level thing than we are. I hope that Ole Miss and Mississippi State too can get to the level where these games are a little bit more significant and from a national standpoint, from an impactful standpoint. I mean, Ole Miss is going to this one with a good shot at being in the Sugar Bowl. State could mess that up. I mean, we'll see. Mississippi State's trying to get to a better bowl as well, and it's going to be interesting. It's funny you're talking about Artie Crosby. My wife and I go to that one. Hey Dad, as students, we're sitting in the end zone, okay, in Jackson.
Hey Dad does not look interested in this story, by the way.
I've already heard it today. I was on with Gerard earlier, and he was telling the same story.
Thing.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Artie kicks it, and as it goes, I tell Mary, I said, he split uprights. We just got beat. And this weird perspective, I'm not doing play-by-play. I'm not in the sweet press box. I'm in the opposite end zone. And I see the ball go, and the State fans on this side just start roaring. And then I saw the ball fall in front of the goalpost. And I told my wife, I said, he missed it. It fell in front of the goalpost. She said, how did he miss it? I don't know, but he missed it. And the State fans die, and the Ole Miss says, That was the weirdest moment in sports. It was just a goofy deal.
What I told Gerard is if that happened in 2013 instead of 1983, you'd have watched that clip 5 million times.
Yeah.
But because it happened back then, I mean, it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you really want to look it up, and I don't. But nobody knows about it. And that's one of the craziest innings to a college football game of all time.
Was it the Stan Torgerson call where he goes, it's good, it is no good. Yeah, I mean.
Because they saw it too. And you watch the clip, it looks like it crossed the goal post or the crossbar and came back. And so then there was an argument. That would be all over Twitter too.
There was an argument about
that
field goal was good.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
there was an argument about
across. I mean, it can go
at that
20
point
feet through it.
People didn't really know. People didn't know.
Plane, Richard.
Yeah. There was a big question. Did it break the plane? If it breaks the plane, does it count? I mean,
I don't think that's how it works with the uprights.
No, it doesn't.
It was crazy, though.
We talked with John Darnell on Friday about the 1989 game, which was your first season doing play-by-play, about the fight that happened in the third quarter. And he said, Richard, that it spanned goal line to goal line. And I said, well, you obviously weren't in it. He said, no. He said, but I felt like I had a role. He said, we were on headsets, and we were like, you got 17 down there at the 22-yard line. He's got 3 guys on him. And it was like they were giving directions on who needed help, how to help your guys.
To break them up.
What do you remember about that 1989 game, which was the last one 1990. I'm sorry, 1990, which was your second year doing play-by-play in Jackson.
That was that the They run together on me. That was the one. The 89 was the fight, though, right?
90 was the fight.
90 was the fight.
90 was the fight, and that was the last year it was played in Jackson.
Yeah. The fight. The weird thing about the fight being that late in the game, we've had pregame fights before.
Yeah.
One really bad one. Deuce was at Ole Miss, and that thing was interesting. But I just remembered that the physicality of that game, the intenseness on both sides from a fan standpoint, everything just kind of culminates. Kind of like our Tennessee deal this year, to be honest with you. Tennessee was ready to just boo. They wanted to boo. They wanted to boo Kiffin. They wanted to boo everything about him and the whole 9 yards, so we get the bottle incidents and all that stuff. But I like it when we don't have a lot of that mess going on and just play football.
And we didn't know at the time that was the last game in Jackson.
No, we didn't.
The last time we were ever going to play there.
My understanding of the story was there was kind of a joint agreement. I think the officials on both schools won't admit this. One school decided we're not going to play Southern Mississippi anymore, and the other one said, well, we're not either. And the other school decided we're not going to play in Jackson anymore. They're not playing Jackson. It hurt us in recruiting. We're not going to do it. You can pick which school.
Right.
One of those schools started playing Southern Mississippi again.
Yeah.
One has not. But that was kind of the rumor back in the day. But the the on-campus atmosphere for both schools is just phenomenal. And Jackson had kind of run its course to a certain extent. We love doing other sports there when we can and all, but it just made sense. And we were being hurt in recruiting back then, not being able to bring recruits to Jackson.
So you've been around this game for a while, both as a fan and working. What stands out for you? What's the memory that kind of stands out among the others?
Well, I'm kind of like, hey, Dad, I like the group of plays that come from our successes. He doesn't. He likes the group of plays
I promise you
that come from Mississippi State's successes. I think the one that stands out, two that stand out the most to me in my career portion of it, of course, I went as a kid all the time too, but the stand was phenomenal. I mean, that was just crazy. That's not supposed to happen. It's really not. Mississippi State ended up with, 10 shots inside the 8-yard line, I think. You had penalties, you had interference, and just one opportunity after another, and it didn't happen. That was crazy.
It was 12 plays inside the 10-yard line, and the two for Ole Miss were a turnover and then a knee at the end. Right.
Right. And I did a thing back then called the 12 Plays of the Egg Bowl. I need to get that for Hey Dad. I got a copy of that.
It's kind of like
my birthday's coming up, David.
Your birthday's coming up? Okay.
Be happy for me.
I'm sure he'll listen to it. Probably, he said, that's what he said. He'd send me straight to the garbage can. But and then the other one was a 2-point conversion with Corey Peterson when Tuberville was here. Yeah. I mean, it just didn't feel it didn't feel like you could do anything in overtime, and that was gutsy to try to pull that off. It's a funny thing. Corey made the catch, and I remember asking him after the game when he was still here as a player. He asked me, he said, DK, what would have happened if I dropped that ball? I said, we'd have sent your tail to Delta State.
That's pretty good.
No disrespect to Delta State or to Corey, but that was a very gutsy call to, try to get the win right there from Tuberville.
You know what? I hadn't even thought about this, but in the current state of college football, I mean, that was catch good on the 2-point conversion. Everybody goes crazy. I guess there were still a couple of plays. There's a little bit of time left on the clock,
enough time.
right?
State drove down the field but couldn't get anything out.
Right.
Okay. That moment, we would have had to hold off because they would have gone and spent 3 minutes reviewing.
They'd have reviewed. I'm trying to remember.
Was there any question as to whether or not he got his arms underneath that one? Because
Corey's catch was clean.
Who caught the touchdown? Was it Flournoy?
Maybe.
I think it was. I think that was
the one that was questionable.
He was going into the end zone, so it wasn't anything. The 2-point, they might have looked to see if he bobbled it, but he caught it. There's no question.
The Hines catch against Georgia for us, I'm getting off the Egg Bowl, that ball hit him in the chest. He held on to it, rolled to his legs, down to his ankles, and he had his hand on it. It hit the ground. He jumped up and said, touchdown, and they agreed with him. On replay, they would have today, no way.
Shot.
We'd have lost that game.
Where was that game played?
At Oxford.
Well, you might have had a chance then. If it had been in Athens, no way.
Yeah. Might be onto something there. When you look at this one, it's the Rebels. David Kellum visiting with us. We're talking Egg Bowl, as we will all week. And glad to be with you. So DK, I alluded or teased before the break that wanted to talk with you about what you think the difference is when you look at this matchup between Mississippi State and Ole Miss. What's the difference in winning and losing, really, for both sides?
I think year two for both coaches has been a whole lot better. I mean, Ole Miss able to have success in this game a year ago, but, both teams were still trying to figure out what the coaches want to do. We definitely were on the Ole Miss side, and I'm pretty sure that's the case on the Mississippi State side, too. So you got two offenses that played a whole lot better this year maybe than they did a year ago. And, you look at Matt Corral, he had some tough games where the 6 interceptions against Arkansas was kind of crazy. He's had a much, much better year in this system. And I start with the two offenses. And Will's done a tremendous job at Mississippi State. It's a different type of offense, but a lot of those short passes would be what we would consider, run plays. But I don't know. It's going to be which defense can get enough stops to hold the other offense down. I'm anticipating a high-scoring game. I know a lot of people kind of down on Ole Miss lately based on the fact we're not scoring in the 50s. We get so spoiled. We used to lose to Vanderbilt, so it's kind of nice to get the 14-point win over the Commodores. But I think coupled with missing some receivers and different things, Matt's done an incredible job of just kind of holding the ship together through these last several weeks. But now you got everybody back. They practiced pretty significantly. Mingo actually practiced a whole lot more last week than he played in the game. I don't think they need it. So you'll see him back in the mix too. But I really do believe that whichever defense gets a key stop, of course, turnovers always fall into, that's coach speak, but I really believe both offenses have got it figured out, and which defense is going to be able to slow the other one to some degree.
Well, and the crazy thing when you look at the defense, I mean, what Mississippi State does with that 3-3-5 with Zach Arnett, they bring pressure from all over the place. They've been good for 2 years. I mean, regardless of personnel, they've been able to scheme it up where they, don't allow a ton. But the growth of the Ole Miss defense, I mean, we're not that far removed from Arkansas scoring 51 and having a ball in the air on a 2-point conversion play trying to win at Oxford.
And thinking you're about to be looking at a year that was similar to last year, but they played a whole lot better last several
Lane
weeks.
Kiffin was furious after that game with the way the defense played. And since then, really a big part of the reason that Ole Miss has won, outside of the Auburn game, has been because of the defense.
Yeah, no doubt. And they played really well against Auburn. You look at the A&M game, you don't win that if the defense doesn't perform like they did in that one. And we're a little bit different because we're the 3-down line with 2 linebackers, and so you add another safety in the back. But we'll see if there's some changes that you at this point you really don't change much. Maybe some trickeration going on. We've seen some of that in the Egg Bowl in years past, but I really do believe that the bottom line in the game is it's a great matchup, and that which defense is going to be able to get enough stops.
Yeah,
David, how many straight Egg Bowls is this for you?
Oh, my gosh, you would ask that. I did the 88 game on television. That was the year we were on probation, weren't allowed to be on TV.
Tornado.
And they asked me if I would do all the games. We were allowed to replay them on Sunday night. But back then we were on TV, but twice. So it was really popular. So I did the whole year. So 88 to this one would be 32, 33rd, I guess, whatever it is.
I love hearing
Straight
about
Egg Bowl
streaks like that. There's so many great ones. My buddy Paul Jones from 24/7. This is 41st straight for him.
Oh, wow,
this
cool.
This is 28 straight for me.
28 for you?
93 was 92. The stand. I wasn't there.
How many did you have to pay to go to though?
93 through 17.
See, I didn't pay for any of those, so
You saved that money.
Yeah, I'm kind of I feel guilty when I talk about a streak. I've been 300 and something games in a row, but I had the best seat in the house and got paid to be there.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than some of these people that spent their money.
And then you got some people who are in the 50s, 60s, 70s. They've been going since Vaught was the head coach.
Wow.
Those streaks exist.
We were talking about mine as well. I've since 1991 when it went back onto campus. I've been to all but 2. And both times I was in the Bahamas on a basketball trip.
And you voted to go to the Bahamas. You gave up.
And if they asked me to go to the Bahamas tomorrow,
I know what the other. I know 18 was one because I was on the show.
I was in
06, I think.
Ole Miss one. I say if State was 2-0, I'd pay for your ticket to go to the Bahamas right
sure.
now.
I was doing women's basketball in the 87 and missed the 87 one and listened to it or kept up with it via a phone call back home, and I was in Aruba at the time. I'm the same way. That's Egg Bowl, Aruba. I think I'll take Aruba.
The 87 Egg Bowl is the first one I have a vivid memory of State winning. And I know they won in 80, they won in 82. I think they won in 84, but I was so young that I don't remember them very. But 87, I remember, oh, my God, we actually won. And, yeah, sort of went from there.
You know, David, there's so many stereotypes that go with you that people would be shocked about. You lived in Starkville.
I did. Hey, Dad doesn't know that. Here's what's funny. My mother, I went to the first half of first grade in Starkville. Mm-hmm. It was the worst year of my life. But my mother,
hey, that belly laughing. We're good.
My mother graduated from Mississippi College, got her theater master's at Ole Miss, and she was hired by Mississippi State as a teaching professional or something for a year. My dad built 3 houses because he was a house builder then before we ended up back here. But a half a year, we were there for a full year, but a half a year I went to the first grade there. This is a great story. And so Jim Ellis and I were talking about it. He said, "What subdivision is that?" Because I think Jim rents houses or something. I said, "Man, I don't know." I said, "We can ride around. I probably can recognize it," but I was in the first grade. But we moved moved twice. We moved in this house, moved down the street, and then moved next door. The next door move, I thought my mother was going to divorce my dad. But she was about to have a fit. But he built houses in Starkville. And midway the first grade year, she got hired here. He got hired on campus. He was from Oxford, and so we ended up coming back to Oxford. And the funny thing, right down the street here on the right was the elementary school. It's long gone. It's the federal building now. When I got here, Mrs. Holder said at the middle of this, I couldn't read or write very good, and she said, "Where were you going to school?"
Oh, gosh.
And I said, "Starkville." And she said, "Well, that makes sense."
You can see that one coming from a mile
as soon as he
away.
said, like, I know where
But,
this
you know,
is
I got
going.
hammered. The first year I got hired as the voice of the Rebels lead announcer. Of course, I'd been doing several years women's basketball and baseball. When I got hired as the lead announcer, they sent me to Columbus to speak. And so I'm speaking, and this man who lived next door to us, a big, huge Bulldogs fan, is in the very back, and I opened it up for questions, you know. And I said, "Okay, anybody got any questions?" And here I am, young buck, you know, I'm feeling my oats. I'm the voice of the Rebels. And he said, "Mr. Kellum, will you tell these people in here what it was like the year you lived in Starkville?" And, I mean, you could have shot me with a 30-06 at that point. I was like, did he just ask that?
Thanks a lot.
And that was my answer. Hey, Dad, quick on my feet. I'm a theater guy, so I quickly said it was the worst year of my life.
That's pretty good.
That's good.
And
But the first baseball game I saw was Mississippi State, not Ole Miss.
There you go.
How about that?
And I feel like there's a tie to LSU or Baton Rouge or something that goes along
Oh,
with
this
the
sorry
Kellum
kid of mine
story as
standing
well?
over here. She's with me. She's visiting for Thanksgiving, but she went to we wrote her out of the wheel. Not that she was going to get anything anyway. she wasn't going to get anything anyway.
I got a question, and this is a question that deserves more time than we have. Voice of the Rebels. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's huge. It was a dream of mine to do that. I was local. A lot of the guys that are doing games at their particular schools are not necessarily from that school. Mm-hmm. And so I tell people, you know, hey, Dad, would appreciate this too. I have a license to be a homer. It's on my wall. So it's graduate, University of Mississippi.
That's what Richard says all the time.
Yeah. But it was really, really special. But Richard and I both, I look at, you know, his career, and he's rocketing into ESPN. We may lose him someday, maybe, you know, making the gigantic bucks. But we paid our dues. Both of us paid our dues and did a lot of high school football. I did a lot of JUCO football, you know, junior college women's basketball, men's basketball, and all those things that led to the opportunity. And I wouldn't trade any of that for anything. It gave me a chance to see corners of this state that a lot of people don't get to see. And so it was a lot of fun building up to the point that I got hired as the lead announcer. But there's not very many of them. They're very difficult to get. I super appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully I've done the best I can. It's kind of neat to be able to. They asked me the other night. I did the women's game for Richard couldn't do it, so I did the women's game on live stream. They said, "David, you know you got to be neutral on this." I said, "Really? I can't be for Ole Miss?" I'm just picking with him. And I said, "Well, I think I can handle it," because I've done several tournament games, the SEC tournament games, with other teams. Learfield has hired us to do that. So I was super neutral, just bragged about both teams, no big deal. I think they were stunned. I think David Dillard and the crew were just absolutely shocked that I was not a homer for Ole Miss in the game.
Referee's doing a really nice job in this one today.
Amazing.
Hey, you two don't get in trouble. I don't want to hear about y'all getting suspended. Talking about referees.
Hey, we ain't changing. If they mess it up, they're just going to suspend us. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if he told you. Whenever I'm in the car coming home from Davis Wade or whatever, and you guys are on, I'll listen on the way home. And I said something about you the other day, and I referred to you as DK. And I was like, I've been listening to y'all too much.
Oh, if you start calling me DK, you're moving to the dark side. I'm just telling you.
Dad, so
yeah, I'm not. Hey, because I'm listening to you guys all the time.
Here we go.
Here we go.
This is good.
Shake.
This is good.